to the conference. I am Bobby Parker with Beyond Clean, and you're enjoying the Be Prepared Global Conference, No Instrument Left Behind. I want to again say thank you to our event sponsor, Aesculap, for their support of this conference and making this Education Day possible. And also want to say thank you to First Case for their collaboration in providing credits and our partnership together in this conference. We are down to the last hour, the final quarter-mile stretch, the last of the Mohicans, and it would be, in some ways, hard to say that we've saved the best for last because all of the sessions have been so great in this conference, but I know we have another great one coming up here for you. We've got another panel discussion, and today's panel discussion is going to be breaking down the broken bin, an instrument repair flow that works. And joining us for today's panel discussion, again, is going to be Hank Balch leading the discussion. Hank is the founder and president of Beyond Clean and loves all things social media, has a great skill of networking out there in our field, and is on a mission to equip sterile processing technicians with the skills and knowledge to fight dirty every instrument, every time. And today he's going to be interviewing three key players for us. The first is Joseph Martin. Joseph is the sterile processing educator at UC Health Memorial Central Hospital, and he finds joy in helping others succeed in their roles and learning all there is to know about the sterile processing industry. Also, we have joining us today Beth Rayfield. Beth is director of central supply and sterile processing at IU Health North Hospital. And Beth's a passionate sterile processing leader who has a talent for establishing successful prioritization and quality output workflows for her department. And last, we've got Gordon Allen. Gordon's the decontamination service manager at Manchester University NHS Foundation Trust from across the pond. Gordon, as you may know if you keep up on LinkedIn, is the co-founder and executive director of Beyond Clean UK, and we're very excited about their growth under his leadership. He's passionate and is engaged in supporting digital networking, education, and the engagement of sterile services. So today, as we talk about the broken bin and that repair bin in your department, we ask, just because something breaks and goes into the broken bin, does that mean that it's the end of the story for it? Our panel of industry enthusiasts are joining forces to discuss the full instrument repair flow from the OR to SPD to repair and back again. And they will provide some helpful hints to hardwiring, repair communication between uses, what to do when instruments come back into service. So with that being said, I want to go ahead and bring in our panelists.
All right, well, thank you. And yeah, we're excited to get into this session today on our Be Prepared event. And right now we're talking about breaking down the broken bin. Instrument repair flow that works. And, this is a pretty particular topic today in the high-level instrument repair. Everything else we can talk about, and there's just a million topics, even though we've got a bunch of great sessions today. This one is like super, super practical, so I'm really excited to talk to the panelists that we have joining us to dive into just the day-to-day, that little plastic bin in the corner, or maybe it's not in the corner, and why is it not in the corner? And we're going to talk about those kinds of things today. But before we get started, I know we got the bios already of our panelists as we got set up here, but I want to give everybody an opportunity to introduce themselves today. And let me just ask, in kind of your intro, I know we're going to talk a lot about the broken bins. I don't want to steal anybody's thunder, but maybe, this is the question I want to ask. What is your favorite color of the broken bin? If you have one, and if you don't, tell us maybe why you don't. Let's start here at the beginning. Joseph, you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. I'm Joseph Martin. I am an SPD educator here with UC Health in Southern Colorado. I'm based out of Colorado Springs. I was an instrument coordinator for 3 years at Jewish Hospital in Louisville, Kentucky. And I don't think I have a particularly favorite color other than whichever bin is clean and readily available for me to grab. I do know that I wanted it stand out from the other bins that it was nearby. So that happened to be any color other than yellow. So it was a blue bin for a long while, and then we switched, I think, to having stainless steel bins, and I wanted the labels on the outside to be very different from any other labels, and so we had some crazy neon lime green yellowy stickers that I was able to use for those. So anything different is the color that I wanted.
I like that. Okay, we'll talk about labeling in particular too as we get here a little bit later, but welcome to the panel. Let's go next to Beth.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Beth Rayfield, and I am the Director of Sterile Processing and Central Supply for Indiana University Health North location. My favorite color, I would say there is no color. It's all about location, location, location. So at at the many facilities that I've worked at, because I'm an old timer, I got about 20 years in the business, I have been basically found that if you keep it in a spot that's convenient to the staff, they're going to put it there rather than leaving it in the sets for the next person to build and then go, aha, here's a broken instrument. So we have it located, and obviously it has to be in a bin that can go through the washer after it's gone out for repair. So the whole bin goes to the repair company, and then they send everything back through, and the bin goes through decontam. So I would just say...
Yeah, we're going to talk a lot about that process in particular, right. The kind of back and forth. But I'm really hoping that Gordon has a favorite color, because if all three of y'all tell me you don't have a favorite color, I'm going to feel real dumb here. So welcome to the panel, Beth. And Gordon, what is your background? And yeah, please tell me that you have a favorite color.
I'll pick a favorite color for you, Hank.
Thank you.
Hi, everyone. My name's Gordon Allen. I'm the Decontamination Service Manager in Manchester in England. I'm also, as you're aware, Hank, have recently started the Beyond Clean UK Advisory Group. So we're doing bringing Beyond Clean over to the UK to try and improve engagement, education, networking for decontamination staff over here. But I won't go into that too much. We're talking about repairs today. In terms of colour, I think my preference would be red, because for me red means broken, damaged. The only thing I would say is that we call it an instrument repair box, would be that it's in the IAP area. And red also for us means contaminated. So actually we have a blue bin in there because we don't want anything red in the IAP.
Okay, yeah. So we'll talk about that kind of challenge and dynamic as well, because that's an important point about red. Even here in the U.S., that's also kind of that contamination color, like all of our red bins, as we call it. They're red because they're the contaminated. Also like safety sharps kinds of bins as well. So good. Well, good intro, and like I told you, audience, we're getting into the nitty gritty, the little bitty details, and you may be thinking we're going to talk a whole hour just about repair bins. Well, you just watch. This hour is going to go by extremely quickly, and the kinds of conversations that we're going to be bringing up are the day-to-day practical things that you encounter every day in your facility, that your technicians are challenged with, your leaders, your instrument coordinators, your repair technicians as well. All of this kind of comes in to supporting an active and high quality and functional instrument inventory. So yes, it's a small topic, but huge implications out there in the space. So let's maybe start at the beginning here. We'd like to talk about definitions on Beyond Clean, because it's so easy to throw out words and phrases and just assume that everyone understands and kind of defines it the same way. But how would y'all define the broken bin? And just like Gordon said, maybe we'll start with you, Gordon, because you already mentioned a different name that you kind of go by, in the UK, and I'm sure there's even kind of some differences within the different hospitals there. But what is the broken bin in general? Like, what is its, why is it there? What do we have, those kinds of things? And what are some different names that you've heard it go by?
Yeah, so as I said, we call it the instrument repair box. So slightly different than broken bin. And obviously, as the name suggests, anything that is damaged and has to be sent off for repair, any instruments will go in the instrument repair box. I'm quite interested to see, first of all, the similarities between how we deal with repairs between both countries, but also the differences, because I have a feeling there might be quite a difference in the way that we manage them, both through the department and also how they get sent off to the repair agent.
Okay. Well, I'm curious too, which is why I added you to the panel, because I want to know as well. Let's go to Beth. Like, have you heard any other names? You have any other nuances on the definition that you want to throw out there for us?
Not really. I mean, it's just pretty much been just, the repair bin, broken instrument bin. That's primarily what I've heard in my career.
Have you ever heard it called the graveyard? Like, I think I've heard people call it that before.
No, I have not, but that's interesting.
Or the rehabilitation center for repair.
Okay.
It's only the graveyard if your instrument repair vendor's not good.
Okay. Yeah, so we'll get into that piece as well there, Joseph. But what about you, Joseph? Any other names or any other kind of definitions you think it's important to get out here up front?
No, I think the way that Gordon and Beth both defined it is how we use that same sort of functional bin or box.
Okay, well, let me come back to you then, Joseph, on this, its purpose in the workflow. Very important conversation, because I think, as a technician just kind of coming into the space, you're taught all these things, and, during the orientation, like, hey, that's the repair bin, it's over there, anything that's broken, go put it in there. But I think it's rare, to really sit down and say, okay, yeah, but what is the purpose of this thing? Like, what's this actually doing? What's it stopping? What's it helping us to do? Like all those other kind of like little nuances. So kind of kick us off here, in your opinion and perspective, like why do we have it?
So I think for an SPD tech processing an instrument tray, they're focused on finding any sort of damage, making sure instruments are functional and clean. And when they find a problem with an instrument, I don't think that they really want to spend a whole lot of time contemplating the damage and how it might be repaired and contemplating the amount of soil on the instrument. They just want to get it to its new location so that they can continue and process the set. So having a repair bin allows any SPD tech to put away their damaged instrument and get back to processing their set so that they can get it up and sterile. For the SPD tech, it was allowing them to better process their sets, and for the repair vendor, it's allowing a centralized location for them to come by and pick up their instruments that they can then get back to the hospital after they repair them or assess them. It's just a centralized location to allow the repair vendor to quickly get their instruments and allow the tech to quickly get back to processing their set.
I had a little, I don't know, mini panic attack as I was imagining what life would be like if we had to repair our own instruments and if we had to stop processing, right? You're in the middle of 120 instruments. You see this noodle holder that needs to be replaced on the tips. And you're like, let me stop this, go over to my repair area and the grinder and the and like you do it all. And then you come back and finish your tray, like how horrible it would be for my like OCD brain.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's a great point. It allows us as reprocessing technicians to focus on that job, the reprocessing job, not the repair job. That's a great point. And then we'll kind of get into that centralized location that helps the repair vendor as well. So I really appreciate that insight. Beth, what do you think? Any other kind of nuance or purpose you want to throw out there for it?
Well, and I do think, to add on to what he said, is, it's all about the flow. Most sterile processing sites are based on units processed to a certain degree.
Right.
I always tell people that, we're kind of like a manufacturing line when we're processing our sets. And I always revert back to the I Love Lucy show where she's checking the chocolates.
The chocolates, yeah.
Exactly. But, I explained to them that, the flow keeps going. That's why you have to make sure that you're inspecting it, you're testing it, because if it's not right, the impact affects more than just us. And then at my facility, I had an outstanding educator that worked with me. Many people may know who she is. Her name was Lisa McCohen, and one of our lovely Beyond Clean folks.
We love Lisa. Yeah.
But Lisa instituted where the staff actually got to observe a surgery so they could see the impact of their work, and also go sit on the repair truck with the repair folks to see exactly what that does.
Right.
So again, what was mentioned was exactly right. Their job is to inspect and to process the trays, but their keen eye for detail is what really impacts it all the way around.
So let's talk about location, because Beth brought this up earlier, but I want to throw this to Gordon here first. Location is critical. So like we're talking about flow, and that's come up, Joseph mentioned that, Beth mentioned that now, that the purpose of this is to keep that flow going. You've got those productivity numbers to the head. You got surgeries that are coming tomorrow. These trays got to get through, but they don't just got to get through complete. They got to get through functional. And that's kind of where we come into this question. So I know we've alluded to areas, but I want to get your perspective, Gordon, on in placing these bins. Like, now we know what the purpose is. Now, where do we put them in our departments to have the most effective flow from the operating room through decontam, through assembly, and then back again?
Yeah, so our bin it's in the IAP area on a back wall in the IAP, which is easy enough for staff just to place the items in there. What would be interesting to know from everyone else, I think, is what happens with those instruments once they go into the bin, because standard practice here, and it may not be in every department, it certainly is in the ones that I've worked in, is that the instruments are taken out of the tray. We complete an instrument repair slip, and they're then sterilized before they go to the repair vendor. I don't know if that's the same everywhere, and I don't really know what the reason is that they're sterilized, because they're not going to be used on a patient. They'll only be handled by, let's say only, but they'll be handled by repair agents and not used in a procedure, and certainly nothing that needs them to be sterile. There may be something that I don't know. There's a reason why they're sterilized. It may just be best practice. I don't know, but it'd be interesting to know what everyone else.
And this is standard
does.
practice, what you're saying in the UK?
Yeah. Well, as far as I've seen, yeah.
Okay. I want Joseph and Beth to both speak to that, but I want to ask a quick follow-up. You've used an acronym a couple of times. I want to make sure that, and I'm hearing you correctly, and that I know what it stands for. Are you saying IEP or IAP?
IAP, yep. Inspection,
IAP,
assembly,
okay. What
and
is that?
packing. So it's inspection, assembly,
Okay,
and
so
packing area.
that's the clean side?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
Okay, great, good. Just want to make sure that we're clear there. Okay. So Joseph, Beth, any one of y'all want to kind of speak to that bomb that Gordon threw out there? Because I have never heard that before.
I have many thoughts.
Okay, go ahead.
Obviously, my first thought would be that it's safe for the repair person to handle. But then on the flip side of that, if it's got bioburden in it, you can't sterilize bioburden. So therefore I don't understand the process of that. I think it's an extra step, but those are my thoughts.
Okay. What do you think, Joseph?
If it's good enough for me to put my hands on in my text, then I think it's good enough for the repair vendor.
Okay.
But I do get the sentiment that some people have of who repair instruments. In their minds, they know that they've opened up a lap instrument and it's been nasty, gross. And I think their rationale is that I'd rather have that after it's been sterilized rather than not, I think is what they're thinking.
Well, after it's gone through the cycle.
Correct.
Yes. Right.
Yeah. But
yeah.
No, we don't. If we don't sterilize our instruments before we give them to our repair techs.
So I do want to bring up, though, and I don't know if I was planning on asking this later or not, but we'll just tackle it right now. So as kind of a point of information for everybody that's listening and thinking through this repair process, I think, Joseph, you might have mentioned this earlier too, but in inspecting in the assembly area, we are looking both for functionality as well as cleanliness. And so if you find a device that is both broken and dirty, the process is a different process than the standard process of if it's just broken. So can you, Joseph, speak to that? Because this is kind of getting to Gordon's point of, it sounds like in the UK, they've got a standard process that everything goes through the cleaning sterilization phase. And I feel like in the US, there may be a little gap there. Can you kind of speak to that piece?
Sure. So I don't remember the last time I've ever had an instrument that was both broken and dirty. But if I were to have one, I would send it back to decontam in order to get cleaned first. If it's early in my shift, I'm going to be talking with the tech in decontam and say, hey, call out when you get this done, or let me know what washer you put it in, and I'll set a timer and I'll snag it when it comes out on the clean side, and then I myself will put it in the repair bin. If it's later in the shift, I'll have to pass that off and say, hey, don't let this broken and dirty instrument get back on the clean side as broken and get lost without getting back into that repair bin.
So Beth, this is one of those really practical, and let's just be honest, and I don't know the answer to this question, right? So you can be honest either way. Have you ever seen instruments in your repair bin that are actually not broken? They've got gunk on them, or there is, dirt, debris, or whatever that, for whatever reason, the technician decided to put it in there instead of to take it back through the process. Have you ever seen that happen?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And you'll see that with some of your newer techs that are being onboarded. They're recognizing a defect, and they're not quite sure. A lot of times they're like, "Oh, I thought it was rust." I'm like, "No, that's blood."
Right.
And we educate through that. I mean, again, working this business for 20 years, I've seen a lot of stuff. My favorite thing in the broken instrument bin is literally an instrument with the tip completely gone. And so I do show and tell with that and say, my repair guys are great, but they can't add metal where there is no metal. So thank you for putting it there, but here's our process. And it still happens.
So let's talk about that, because that's a huge training gap, and we've got another session that we're going to talk about. New, used, repaired, beyond repaired is kind of the category that's placed in it. Actually, like Joseph kind of brought this up earlier, depending on who your repair vendor is, sometimes they categorize things a little differently. Someone will tell you, hey, this is beyond repair. It's at the end of its useful life. And then others like, yeah, I can fix that.
Mm-hmm.
And then you've got others who are just very, very sensitive at the other end of the spectrum. So in this repair bin conversation, though, like you mentioned, a great example, hey, you got the tip of a scissor is gone. What is a good process or what is your process to not go into the repair bin, or is it? And kind of explain that to us here.
Well, so I can share with you what I do at my facility, and that is we educate, number one. We bring those items to our daily huddles and show, hey, great catch, whoever found this in the set, this is missing. We have a list of items to order that is right by the repair bin. So if they see something that's completely broken, and I see a lot of laparoscopic, like we call it the weapon of mass destruction, but it's actually a suture retriever that goes in for laparoscopic cases, and there's a very sharp point on the end of it. Well, obviously, when you have residents and fellows, they have it open when they're removing it from the port inside the patient's abdomen, and it takes the top of it off. So, I show them, I was like, this can't be fixed. However, if you put it on the list for me, then I'm going to get it replaced. So that way we aren't building sets without it, or having additional peel pouch backup for when one does break during a case, and we don't have to open up a whole, tray of instruments for one instrument.
I want to go to Gordon here, because you mentioned kind of something similar but different to what Beth just said with kind of the instruments to order list. Like, I really like that, good practical, hey, you're already there, it's already broken, let's go ahead and get it on the list so we don't have to wait until the instrument coordinator finds it, or, somebody else comes along. And then you mentioned like a repair slip that you have your technicians fill out, Gordon. Can you kind of explain that a little bit more and how that works in this whole process?
Yeah, so when a technician finds an instrument that's in need of repair, or it's been flagged up by the OR that needs to be repaired, that will be picked up in the IAP pack clean room, to get my terminology right. They will then flag that up to a supervisor. So actually every damaged instrument that we have is flagged to a supervisor on shift, and they then deal with it just to let the tech get on with the job, really, and not have to worry about the admin process. So at that point, they'll then fill in. So we have a repair slip for each repair. So each individual one has a slip with the tray name, instrument name, date. Whoever's filled it in will sign it, and that'll go in. So each instrument gets put in a clear view pouch, because of course it's going to be sterilized, unlike most places. And that slip will go in with the instrument. So that follows it through the whole process. It goes to the repair agent with the slip, and it comes back with the slip.
Oh.
So it's a random question. I'm kind of curious about this. Do you put, in your normal sterilization process, are you running chemical indicators in your pouches?
No. The only
okay.
So the chemical
so you're not putting them in when you're sterilizing them either.
No.
Okay, great, good. Joseph, I want to throw this to you because I know like you've used an instrument tracking system in this repair process before. Gordon mentioned that kind of tagging function that gives you the information for the tray, the instrument name, etc. In your like dream world of how an instrument tracking system would be set up and how technicians would utilize it, like how would you like to build that repair function or that module to be able to have some data around like what's breaking in our trays, and then have transparency of it came out of this tray, went into the bin, came back again? Like, how would you want to build that?
I don't see this question on my outline, Hank. That's a really fun question. I don't think I've ever really dreamt about it until just now. But if I were to dream about the instrument repair bin, it would be trying to get as much information as I possibly could, as quickly and easily as I could. So I guess that would boil down to, if you had an instrument and that particular curved 5.5-inch cryo, you somehow knew that it used to be in the major ortho set, index number 7, and it's misaligned jaws. And I would love to be able to see that it came out of that set, it went to the repair vendor, it came back, and then maybe it went back into major ortho 7, maybe it went into the backup wall, maybe it went into major ortho 3. I think having that much detail would be really cool in order to understand, like you said, what trays are we experiencing the most amount of damage in, and when we have a problem, we'd be able to see what we did with that problem and where the final product is at this point. Because right now, I think a lot of hospitals probably don't track where that damaged, misaligned 5.5-inch cryo came out of, where it went. I know that on a lot of surveys and audits that they're going to want to see a problem and what you did with it, rather than just a problem or not even really acknowledging that there was a problem and tracking that. I don't know if anybody is really doing that much detail. I think it's hard to capture that much detail right now, mostly because the tech's priority is, I want to get this tray up and ready for the next patient. I don't want to fill out a 10-page form, even though the form's really helpful, because that's good information, and sometimes you need that on specialty items in order to get it back into that specialty tray. But if I were to dream, it would be having as much information about the process as possible and getting that info as quickly as possible.
I want to add to that because I also want to know what room it came out of, what surgeon's using it. Because if I have a specific surgeon where I'm constantly getting, I'll say total joint rooms, I'm constantly getting my cokers back that are misaligned. Well, being a scrub, because I scrubbed prior in my work history, I know exactly what that coker's used for. But if it's something other than, what its intended use is for, I want to know so I can educate the physician. Because 9 out of 10 times I get called into the room where they're like, Beth, look at this, I'm missing this again. Well, then I've got the data to support and say, you know what? For the past 6 months, I've received 14 cokers out of your room that were broken. I can't keep up with this. So what do I need to get you that would be better serve the work that you're doing? Maybe we need to go with something a little bit more robust than just an 8-inch coker. And that's where we get that data from when the OR tags broken instruments in the room. We have a slip that we use from a great vendor. I don't know if I should plug anybody or not, so I won't. But I'm just saying it's a broken instrument label that lists all of that. Surgeon, date of case, what's the set, what's wrong with it, who's the scrub, and those can go through the washer. So they go from the OR to decontam through to the clean side. And then again, the person building that tray, it's an orange tag. So it's, a visual cue to tell them, hey, something's broken in this set, but we're able to see trends and things like that.
I want to pick up on that and throw this over to Gordon, because I did have a question that I want to get to about broken instruments in the operating room or operating theater as they're found at the point of use. Because, so far we've been talking about, hey, at the assembly area, we find something broken, clear process, goes in the bin. But the operating room can be a whole another ball game. Beth kind of described a good process with the tagging. I'm kind of curious, Gordon, like what you typically see over in the UK for that process.
Yeah, so obviously Beth mentioned the tagging, which is a similar process. So we will tag instruments when they're found in the OR as damaged. We're very fortunate that we have a great tracking system that allows the OR staff to raise what we call the non-conformance if there's a damaged instrument in a tray. So they can scan that tray, they can tell us what instrument is damaged. We know exactly what time that's happened, what OR it's happened in. We don't always get all of the information that we need. Sometimes the staff will write broken in it, which doesn't really tell us much. It doesn't tell us what's wrong.
Some things never change.
You put your mind reader cap on and you go,
Yeah. Sometimes they don't even tell us which instrument is broken. But we're fortunate that we have that system that then flags up to the tech as they pack the tray that this instrument is damaged. and it can't really be missed. It's not perfect, but it's certainly, the tracking system is key for us. One other thing I just wanted to mention, Beth made a great point about the trending and knowing where these incidents are happening and the damage is occurring. One of the things that I would really want as a dream, I think, is for our repair vendor to be more involved in that. I know some repair vendors have started with sort of online modules where you can log in and see where your repair is and can track everything. We don't quite have that yet, but I think that really is key, is to have the vendor involved.
But yeah, that data piece is huge, right? And I think we've got a couple more questions about that if we have time to get to it. But I want to go back to the practical thing again. Like Beth kind of brought this up, and I'm kind of curious, Joseph or Gordon, if y'all have got any other insight. Well, I guess Gordon, you already spoke to it on the data piece because the OR is using that non-conformance module. But there's always a question, Joseph, of, hey, like, how do we tag like a non-ring handled instrument? You know, it's clear, like you got a scissor, boom, you put a tag on it, it's going to stay there, it's going to come all the way through, and you got it. But like you got a chisel, you got an osteotome, you got a knife handle. Like, what's been the best process to make sure that, the worst case scenario doesn't happen again, that Dr. Johnson gets that same broken scissor back and they're like, what the blank just happened? Because I already told y'all, and here it goes again. Like, how do you make sure that doesn't happen?
I think getting the right tagging product was a game changer for us. The product that we were able to get that allowed us to tag, an osteotome, a chisel, or a ring-handled instrument, was able to kind of stretch and loop and go around a solid piece of steel, like on a chisel, and it would work. The product was helpful in that sense that you could tag, a straight instrument or a ring-handled instrument because you could loop it around. It also was helpful that it could withstand the washing process and cleaning process very well. It depended on what marker or pen that they were using in the OR to record the information on. But even if they used a simple pen that would mostly get washed away, you could kind of do a little textual criticism and read on this tag after it came out of the wash that, hey, it's, misaligned jaws, whatever it may be. You can kind of see a little bit of information there on that tag, even if they used the wrong pen. But it really needed to fit both ring-handled and non-ring-handled instruments, withstand the washing process. And the tag was also something that the OR would agree with. They said, yeah, let's use that. That's helpful. And
so do you have the tags in the OR suites?
Correct.
In
Correct.
the substeriles?
Yep.
Okay.
In the ORs. And sometimes they would have hooks by the doors that we would hang them on. Wherever they wanted to put them, that's where I would put them for them. Because I wanted them to use it and wanted them to feel comfortable using it.
What about, have you ever seen, or do you have opinions on putting those tags in the trays? I've seen some facilities with like the plastic repair tags, and every tray they've got two of those plastic repair tags in the tray, and they're just processing them again and again. Y'all ever see that? Do you have any opinions on that?
I would not be in favor of that. I mean, to me, it would just be a waste of dollars spent on those tags. We at my facility, we have multiple. We have little clips that say sharpen, so that way if this physician complains about them, it just clips onto the ring handle. And then we have the actual ones that you fill out, and they have zip ties, so you can zip tie it to any instrument just about. But yeah, I would think that I would question, and I would think a regulatory agency would question having something like that reprocessed over and over again, because I don't believe that the manufacturer's IFU states that they should be sterilized over and over again. That would just be my first thought.
I know we were talking about tagging to get back to sterile processing. Do any of y'all have or have you seen a practice that there's repair bins actually in the operating room space? Anybody ever had that?
I haven't. No.
Okay. What about broken bins in decontam? Is there a place for that, yay or nay?
I think for us,
I'm going to say nay, only because they still have to go through and get cleaned in order to be repaired.
Okay. Gordon, what were you going to say?
yeah, absolutely the same thing. The instrument has to go through the wash, so there'd be no need for that. Quite interesting though that talking about the different tags that are available. We only have the little clips that go through the ring handles. Everything else, we try to put that clip round it. It falls off invariably and tries to get separated. But we'll need to see what else is out there, I think.
Okay, good. I got a business idea on this interview. Okay.
Let me know, Gordon. I'll fill you in. I think that's one thing too, Hank, that, we tend to forget, we're all in our own silos, so to speak, when it comes to sterile processing, that when we entertain these types of things, and I'm so thankful that Beyond Clean does this, that brings people from all over, because number one, we feel each other's pain, but number two, they're just opportunities like this. Gordon's been looking for something, can't find something. That's what brings me back to work every day, is knowing that I'm able to share my knowledge, my expertise, my, failures with others so that they can, I say, give people tools in their toolbox.
Yeah. Yeah. And it goes down to, like, not to get us off track, but it goes down to the setup that I gave at the beginning of this interview of traditionally in our industry, we kind of stay like very high level. We talk about high level themes, in general. Are we like get on one topic and then we just drill that topic into the ground, like care and handling of laparoscopic instruments, like not a knock against that topic,
right?
But there's been like a million presentations about that. And there's so many other things to talk about within that topic, but go deep. And it's these conversations, like you said, that really surface the nuances, the gaps, the differences, the opportunities. And you're right, unless we create these opportunities as an industry to come together,
right,
to bring those perspectives to talk and question and challenge, like we're just never going to figure those things out because we're just living in that silo, as you said.
Yeah.
I want to go to signage here because we've talked about bins. I kind of started the whole interview off with bin colors, got shot down. No one has a favorite color. There's complicated colors, so that's okay. Okay, I received that. But let's talk about signage. You have your bin in the area, in the assembly area that you're going to be using it in. How do you label it? And is there any additional kind of signage that you have around to kind of hardwire the process that you want to happen? And let me maybe start with Gordon on that one.
Yeah, so probably a bit boring compared to what Joseph is going to tell you. We have a sign on ours called repairs, and that's about as far as we've gone with it. So the repair box sits on a table with repairs on it. Usually ends up overly full with everything else spilled onto the table, unfortunately. But...
So, yeah, we're going to talk about bin size in a second, so put a pin in that because I want to come back to that. All right, Joseph, Gordon seems to think for some reason that you're going to have some creative signage, so don't disappoint.
So
what's your thoughts on that?
I didn't have any, amazing neon lights above the repair bin. It said, instrument repair bin. We did have two, one that said delicate and one that said, just instrument repair bin. I think that was helpful to keep whatever is damaged not from getting even more damaged if it was a delicate instrument. Because you don't want a 2-pound ortho mallet in the same bin as you have Castro Viejo suture needles. So it was helpful to have two different signs for the two different bins, but labeling the bins in the process for whatever they needed to do next was helpful. So the signage would say instrument repair bin, the tech would put it in that repair bin. I would come by and sort through it and get it to our repair vendor. And when I would take the bin and put it to the repair vendor's hands, I would take off the outside label. They're kind of clippy labels. I don't know if this is exciting to you, Gordon, but it did kind of get me excited. You slide off the label that said, instrument repair bin, and I would put on a new tag that said, put on the backup wall. Or I would say, give back to Joseph, or give to the instrument coordinator. So, because sometimes I would see an instrument in there that I wanted myself to take and get it back to where it needed to go, or most of the time it just needed to go into our backup inventory. So I would put on a new label for where it needed to go and kind of direct the instrument repair bins where they needed to go. So I'd flip out the signage for what needed to happen next. The repair vendor would take the instruments, repair what they could, and they would get back to me anything that was beyond repair. And then everything that did needed to go back into sets or wherever it needed to go they'd drop it off in decontaminate. It already had the sign that said place on the backup wall. The techs would clean it and get it on the clean side, and then the tech on the clean side would then see that same label that I'd placed on it 2 steps ago that says place on the backup wall. They'd place all the instruments on the backup wall, and then I'd have to come by, and most of the time I'd put the instrument repair bin back to where it was, or I would save it because I had a couple of them that I would kind of be circulating around through the different processes. But I don't know if that excited you, but I always enjoyed being able to switch the signs and help things get to where they needed to go.
Yeah. As a highlight of your day, right?
Yeah.
Just switching the signs.
Yeah. That's
a great
creative.
process. Yeah. And if we have time, I want to come back to that after the repair through decontam, then what happens next. So if you can kind of hold me to that, I'll keep an eye on the time. We'll come back to that. I want to do a follow-up to what Joseph said and then throw it over to you, Beth, if you've got anything else to add for the signage piece. But that comment about the delicate bin, practical takeaway and just challenge for everybody listening. This is not an Amy recommendation. It's a Hank recommendation. I would highly advise you getting a second bin for delicate items, specifically because of what Joseph said. Yes, it's broken, but that could be the difference in a $20 repair or a $2,000 replacement. So it's worth a $20 bin beside it to just separate those delicates out from your more hardy instruments. So, so signage in that process. Beth, do you have anything else to add to what's already been said?
I'm super boring. Mine doesn't have any tag on it or anything, but we have actual drawers that all of our backup inventory lives in, which is at the front of the workstations. We have 8 workstations in our department. And so the repair bin just sits on top of, I figured that's the best location. They're going to be looking for a replacement, so they can just, drop off their broken instrument, grab a replacement. But I will say that was a really good aha moment for me just now, and having a separate bin for the delicate. I did, in my mind, it's broken, so put it in the repair bin. But Joseph, that was a really good idea to make a separate one for, even if you don't have that many of them, it doesn't have to take up a bunch of room. But that was a great idea. So thank you for sharing that.
I want to talk about sizes because Gordon kind of mentioned, offhand that his bins sometimes get overflowing. And that's, kind of brainstorm right here live. If we were to dream again, build the perfect process, right? We're all constrained by money, by space. Like, it is hard to get the perfect process. But if we were going to build a process from scratch, we're going to build this repair bin from scratch, what would make a good bin size and construction? And I guess, I want to throw this over to Joseph first, because you mentioned that you converted from plastic bins to stainless steel. And Actually, looks like he's got a question. So let me throw this to Gordon. In the size of your bin, is it overflowing because you just got so many instruments coming through, Gordon, or is it just a small bin? Could you speak to that for me?
I think it's probably a combination of both, where it does overflow. I think, it's a great idea to have more than one bin. We could probably have 3 or 4 for different types of instrument, because we have power tools and rigid scopes and everything else that's coming through and going for repair. So that's definitely something that I'll take away, is to add some more bins and some more exciting labels, I think.
Okay. So Beth, on the bin piece, right? There's not going to be a single bin or size that can contain every flavor of instrument. You got Da Vinci, right? You got the scopes like Gordon mentioned. How would you manage that kind of outlier? We can get a bin that can catch almost everything, we'll say 95%, and then that 5% of the exceptions. What's your workflow on those damaged items? How do you kind of route that through the repair bin process?
So obviously, like you said, there's no one size fits all. Obviously, our high dollar items, things like Book Walters, Da Vinci, those are all high priority. Those literally come back directly to me. The staff will bring them to me. We have a repair process set up to where, say it's a critical item and we don't have backup inventory for it. We've created a form that the staff fills out. What's the set number? What's the name of the set? They make a copy of it. We have a repair wall where we put the trays that have those items on the shelf, and then they put a copy of the repair sheet that they made on my desk. So then I know, okay, what is the set? What do I need to repair? Blah, blah, blah. And then I'm able to, because not all repairs go to one repair company. A whole nother ball of wax, I know, that we love to talk about. But, so depending if it goes back to the manufacturer, if it goes to the repair company, if it goes to a third-party repair company, those are all factored into it. But we really created that just in the last 4 years, because it was getting to the point where it was I'd walk in from vacation and boom, I've got sets that are critical, and I've got coordinators calling saying, hey, we need this and we're turning this over. And I'm like, I had no idea. So the staff actually came up with that.
Yeah, that leads into, I don't know if we've ever done a session on this. I know we've done podcasts and articles about the critical role of that instrument coordinator, inventory coordinator in sterile processing, who's got the time and the training to do all those things you mentioned, right? Because typically,
what is
as
that?
you described, that's kind of on the manager. Yeah.
Right. Manager, the supervisor.
Yeah.
That's why I was interested when Gordon was saying that they had a supervisor, that everybody brought the stuff to the supervisor. And I was like, wow, you have one of those on every shift? It's crazy.
That's right. Show me your ways, Gordon.
Yes.
I want to throw this construction question here to you, Joseph. You might have missed it. At the beginning, you kind of offhand mentioned that you converted from plastic bins to stainless steel. I'm kind of curious on what the thought process was behind that, if you've got any insight on kind of bin size and construction.
Yeah, so the bin size is something that will meet the demands of the technicians who find the bad instrument. So if you work at a big hospital, you might need a bigger bin. If you work at a smaller, facility that doesn't find as many repairs because you don't have as much volume going through, you can have a smaller bin. But switching to a stainless steel made a lot of sense for us because it allowed us to use the same bin that the technician's putting it into as the same bin that goes to the repair vendor, as the same bin that goes to decontam, and is capable of getting washed. The plastic bin, most of the ones that we have don't have holes in them. They don't really allow a whole lot of impingement process or cleaning process through decontam. So having a regular old, I think we had a flash pan or an old, just an old basket that we used to use that is no longer needed. A stainless steel basket was helpful for keeping the process flowing rather than having to switch things out.
Right.
Yeah, that's an important point, because if those things are are going back through the wash after the repair, having them stable in the same tray. I think that makes a lot of sense. So
you have better luck of getting everything back.
Right.
You know what I mean? Versus it just being put on an assembly cart or something where people, I don't know what this is, so I'm not going to touch it. Not me.
One thing I found helpful for when that happens, Beth, because I would observe that, is the instrument repair bin would come out of the wash and it would sit on the clean side for days. Unless I picked it up and I put it back where it needed to go. People just don't like dealing with one-offs. They'd much rather complete a whole set. And so I don't remember if I told my manager at the time, so I might be confessing something. I created a fake product and called it the instrument repair bin in our tracking system. I tagged it onto the basket and told technicians that if you scan this, you're going to get 100 instruments added to your productivity. So because sometimes we would have a lot of instruments and it would take a while, and sometimes we wouldn't. And so my thought was, if I tell the techs that if you scan this, you'll get another 100 instruments added to your productivity, they would seek out the repair bin. They would put it where it needed to go so that we could continue to use our inventory. So
how'd that work?
I think it worked okay.
And now Joseph's manager's like, where is he?
Yeah. I might have told him. I might not have. I don't remember.
They're trying to figure out why their productivity, they can't meet their productivity from the previous year.
Well, it was only one repair bin one day, or two maybe. So it wasn't a huge spike in their productivity.
Gotcha.
Yeah. I love that, though. You're driving incentive, you're being creative to get those technicians, to do what needs to be done, right? Like, we do need to help in that process. It's not the manager's job. It's not the instrument coordinator's job only. It's all our jobs to get those devices either back into the inventory itself or to that backup instrument storage. As I mentioned at the beginning here, this time was going to absolutely fly by, and it has. So I'm not going to make any promises, but I'm going to make a guess here. I'm guessing that we're going to do a round 2 of this conversation at some point and dive into all the topics that we did not get a chance to get to, and all the questions I'm sure that we've got from the audience here on, how and why and when and where to do this process. But I want to thank each of you for your time and your transparency of, the aha moments, because we're all getting better together here. Like, I learned some things myself, and I know everybody on this panel did, and I'm sure the audience did as well. So yeah, really appreciate you coming on the show and, being open with your process. And I hope that folks have been inspired today to take away, 1 or 2 things to make their process better in their facility. With that, we're going to turn this back over to our host.
All right. Thanks, guys, for that panel discussion and, for sharing your processes on your quest to instrument repair domination through excellent broken bin processes. That was a lot of fun. And I would encourage all of you out there listening to connect with any of these panelists via email or LinkedIn. If you've been with us all day, you know the spiel here. But over in the speaker bio tool, you'll be able to find their contact information. If you have any further questions about some of those processes or just want to get to know those panelists, I would definitely encourage you to do that. Again, as we wrap things up here at the end of our day, want to say thank you to our event sponsor, Aesculap, for putting on this this conference, this educational conference, as well as our event collaborator in First Case. Thank you for that. Thank you all for attending on a Friday. You have made my Friday by spending the day with us, and thank you so much for joining us and investing in your own education. I want to remind you one more time of the resources section on your screen, where you can find some content there from our event sponsor. Also, a link to the Beyond Clean CE webpage, where you can find the world's largest digital library of free sterile processing CEs. If you are here for the continuing education credits, know that after this broadcast ends, you should be automatically directed over to the survey for the conference where you will be able to get your CE certificate. And until next time, we want to say thank you. We hope to see you on the next conference. And until next time, keep fighting dirty.